You know, one of the most popular questions in terms of things that people email to me is, what is the Khazarian Mafia? And can you ask Jimmy and JoAnne to elaborate on it in a future show? And now we're living in the future. Jimmy and JoAnne, how are you?
Great.
Fine, we're doing good, Jason. How are
Yeah.
you?
I'm very well. It's good to see you guys as always. I detect some upgrade. You seem better lit today. The set looks very nice.
We changed the lighting a little bit, but that real fancy microphone, all of a sudden it must have upgraded the software because now we're seeing a modulation
On the
signal on the
microphone.
microphone. So
We never saw that before.
Well, it definitely
maybe it's
sounds
fine.
better. So everything's
Good.
good. Yeah.
Hey, listen,
Technological.
we just got back from a quick trip to Austin. JoAnne got so pissed off at the governor here. He has absolutely nothing between his legs. So we went to the governor's office, and
How about
she
his
went in
ears?
there and she told him that if he didn't remove all these sanctions, everything, she was going to whoop him like a stepchild. So he immediately came out with a notice and he opened up Texas. So
Yeah.
thank you, JoAnne. You did a great job.
Thursday, Texas is gonna open.
Well, it's actually great news because, we've been speaking for some days about how there were plans there in Texas. Of course, I've always heard, it's common knowledge. You just don't mess with Texas. Nobody with a brain in their head does. And JoAnne, you've been telling me in emails and text messages and our phone calls that everybody was getting ready to protest over there May 1st. I wonder if that message didn't reach the governor and he had some better sense about him opening everything on April 30th. What do you think?
Oh, he didn't have any choice,
No,
Jason.
they were going to open.
He didn't have any choice. May 1st, everybody was going to go back to work. Everybody. There was going to be they were just going to, lift their middle finger to the governor and go back to work here because they said, you cannot restrict our right. You cannot restrict our right to earn a living. And that yesterday or day before, there was a lady who opened her nail salon and her hairdresser place in Dallas. And the police came and gave her a citation, and they had a big rally. Hundreds of people came, and she tore up that citation.
She shredded the citation
in
in front of everybody. And
Wow.
those rallies were happening all over Texas.
They
And really,
happened in Austin, they happened in San Antonio, they happened in Dallas, they happened in a bunch of other cities. And Texas has a huge amount of counties that have less than 5 cases in them. And so what's happening is on Thursday, the stay-at-home order expires and people can go, everything reopens except for, and all healthcare people go back to work. They do not want more than 25% in restaurants if your county has more than 5 cases. And then up to 50% in 2 weeks. But, Jason, once they open this gate, it's like when you have a dam and you get a crack in the
Right.
dam, we're just going to let a little bit of water out. Doesn't work that way. That crack opens and everything goes through. And who's going to go be a monitor of how many people are in a restaurant?
yeah. And,
Yeah.
the lethality hadn't been there. All these projections hadn't been there. Yet the economy has absolutely been crushed. And so, the people all over the United States should be doing the same thing, demanding that their rights be given back to them. Because in the history of the world, never have the non-sick people been quarantined. Good
Right.
medicine is you quarantine the sick people. Complete opposite. This was a total control, total takeover. See how much of our liberties they could take away, how much of their little brown balls of dog hooey we would eat before we did something about it.
Well, the interesting thing is, like Jimmy said, once this has happened and people go back to work, they're not going to get away with this again.
No.
This
Right.
is people woke up, they said, wait a minute. So it's interesting because people are all tweeting out, so goes Texas, so goes the United States. They all want Texas to do something. And people are excited about it. They are saying, okay, you're going to see all the red states open and all the blue states stay closed, because the Democrats were the ones in Texas who were against it. Oh, we're not ready to open. We got to look at more. And of course, the Republicans run the state, and Abbott had no choice because
Abbott's he's about 20%.
people were going to open up here without him. And that would have been terrible for him. First of all, he may never get reelected again. I don't know. But I can tell you right now, he would have been, as Texans would say, been ridden out on a rail. So It's good thing that he backed off and said, yeah, we're just going to let it expire. They're trying to put some restrictions on it, but that's going to be real weak here in Texas.
I would have to
People are going to go back to
imagine that something would happen to him along the lines of a skunk in a treehouse in August or something. There's got to be some sort of Texas circumstance.
Listen, the people here were so upset with him because of the sorry, gutless wonder 2 weeks ago. I'm going to come out with my program next week to open up Texas. He never came out with any program. See, he was telling everybody, I'm going to open up Texas. Then he said, I'm going to give my program next week. Well, next week came and went and no program. And so he was going to do that again this week. Well, people said, enough of that. We're going to open up. So he had no choice. He was backed up against the wall. And either he opened up Texas or he absolutely looked like a schmuck.
Yeah,
now, let me just share with you guys for a second, because we've got Maria Walker with us in the YouTube comments. She's concerned. She says, but what about this threat of a fall resurgence? Now, we've been hearing this from Tedros, of the WHO, we've been hearing this from Fauci. I've heard social engineers in social media, including people associated with George Webb, like Paul Cottrell. They've been talking about this as if they know something. It's almost like there's going to be a virus released on us that will cause this resurgence. I have no information on this, but we've, in other shows like John Cullen's Coronavirus Investigation, Discovery CSI with David Hawkins, we've been talking about the spread of this disease and how it doesn't seem to match the organic spread of a contagion. A lot of people have been sharing this video with me. I think actually JoAnne even sent me this video as well, of two medical doctors in Bakersfield. These are not PhDs. These are not online diploma losers like Paul Cottrell. These are actual medical doctors, virologists, microbiologists, and they have conducted over 5,000 tests of their own patients with their own staff in their facility there, and they are able to extrapolate out in the way that medical doctors do. They've got a large enough pool that they can estimate, based on the number of tests that they have, that nothing that's been done is medically sound according to them. They're back to speaking about this concept of herd immunity. As you just pointed out, Jimmy, the concept of locking up healthy people has not only never been done, but this Dr. Erickson from Bakersfield, he's talking about how, when your immune system is closed off from the type of bacteria and viruses and pathogens that we normally encounter, you're weakening your immune system. It's like getting into bed for 2 months. If you've ever been in the hospital, your muscles atrophy and your body is weakened. So this doctor's making a very tangible argument that we've actually done more damage to people, and that the normal pathogens are out there are going to be a bigger risk to everybody. So I don't know about this fall resurgence, but we can't all stay in our houses.
Jason, there's one question that begs to be asked. Why? Well, I'm gonna give you my reason why I think this has happened is because the crash of the petrodollar was imminent, and the bad guys knew it. And in order to cover their ass, so the world didn't know just how big criminals they were, how much they've stolen, how much they have absolutely depleted the hard resource and assets of all these countries that they run, in order to cover that up, they have been inventing this pandemic, if you would, for years. It was written up in 2010 in the Rockefeller Institute report, and they called it a COVID event.
Wow.
So 2010, they had their plan in place, and this plan, again, it was discussed in depth in 2012 with Gates and all the World Health Organization, all those criminals there, and the guys behind all this. So that photo, you've got about half of them. Right. They're 85 Khazarian Mafia Satanists who are the Rothschild, Rockefeller, Medici, and members of the 18 other oligarchs, the royal families in the world, who those 85 top people own 70% or more of the world. They've bought it with phony money. They print money without anything behind it, and the only way it's worth anything if you believe it's worth something. So they have printed up this phony money, They own all the central banks in the world. They own them. They're all offshore, foreign-owned corporations. And we'll get into all that. We'll define all that in our show. But the reason this phony virus deal, and yeah, there's a real virus, but it's not even, all the history is showing it's not even as bad as a normal flu virus.
Let me say something, Jason, about that. It reminds me, when I have a lot of medical people in my family like you do, and when they went to medical school, I can remember they went through this thing of, oh my God, I'm on virology, I'm in bacteria this term and everything. I know I've got this disease. I know I've got this disease. No, I know I'm going to have this disease. I'm going to die from it. And they have an actual term for it, that they go through this panic of learning about all these different diseases you can get. This is what they've done to the population of the United States.
Hypochondriacs is what they've made.
Scared them.
They've turned them into hypochondriacs, and they all are living in fear. And fear, is the mind killer. Fear will lead you anywhere. So you have to get rid of that and remember that every day of our life, we don't know all these diseases. We go about our life. We're fine. We're happy. We're healthy. And we're not scared of disease. Now that they've put this in our face on the news 24/7, people are scared, and they need to forget that. That was intentional. That was
absolutely
intentional.
And when we start our sponsor exclusive show in just under 20 minutes on patreon.com/James and JoAnne Moriarty, patreon.com/crowdsource the truth, and subscribestar.com/crowdsource the truth, we're going to get in depth on this topic that we've spoken about quite a bit. We're talking about them, we're talking about they. The Khazarian Mafia is this group that's pictured here. It's the Rockefellers, the Rothschilds, the Medicis, the Bushes. It's basically, it includes Bill Gates. It includes, doesn't it, Jimmy? These are all the people that have conspired to control the wealth of the world.
Absolutely, and they've been doing it for thousands of years. These were the guys that Jesus threw out of the temple as the money traders. They invented and perfected the Babylonian debt scheme. That's something everybody can read about. And the thing is, they have gotten away with this because their phony money has been their vehicle to bribe all the politicians. And everybody has a price, and they found out how to bribe somebody. They either coerced them, they compromised them, they blackmailed them, and in the end, they used their money to take over the world. And that is the false idol that these guys have put up and everybody's bought. And there's some natural law that really we should all have been adhering to forever, and we're going to get into that in the main show, and that's the doctrine of the lesser magistrates. That's a really very, very powerful natural law that was memorialized, I think, in the 1500s. Yeah. And that's something that everybody should read and understand. We all have the right, or we're required to remove criminal politicians and leaders when they're not doing what's right and just. We should have been doing that all along. Here in the United States, we're guilty of having sorry-ass candidates for politicians. And there really wasn't anybody good to vote for, and we voted anybody, and they tried to line us up one party, but there was no good candidate, so we voted somebody in that we knew wasn't going to be any good.
But
that's not good enough.
You see what happens when the people start to rise up and push back like they did in Texas. This guy either backed down or he was out.
Right.
And he knew it. He saw it. So this is what they will all do. This. None of them are, have any courage or anything. They're all up there doing whatever they do. They aren't fighting for the people.
No,
and
they're not defending the
Constitution. You give them a little bit of power, and boy, they're going to hang on to that because they don't have enough gumption internally to be powerful. So they legislate themselves power, and they legislate themselves handcuffs and hammers and everything. So
Now,
anyway, we're going to talk.
Sorry,
about
real
all
quick,
this,
guys. I don't mean to interrupt you, JoAnne, but I just wanted to touch on what you're saying because it's possible that the governor of Texas has become aware of this order, apparently, from the do-nothing, swamp rat blowhard William Barr. But now he's saying that he's ordered legal action against governors whose COVID-19 actions infringe on civil rights. Well, I think that would include Governor Cuomo here in New York City, who's ordered people to close their businesses. I don't think that he has the right as governor to do that. So it's a little unclear what sort of action Mr. Barr, he's directing U.S. attorneys to be on the lookout. That's a little different than a specific direction to take legal action, like, order the governor of Texas, the governor of New York to do whatever, they're really not taking any action other than war of words.
It's the people of Texas who
Texas.
who have open carry here and showed up at all these events with their long guns.
Also, a shout out
pistols.
for Georgia. Georgia's also
Georgia's doing it too.
So
and
forward,
Arkansas is also doing it.
Yeah. So when people start to push back these chicken shit little politicians who only have power that they've stolen, when you start pushing back, they go run and hide. Well, they're running and hiding right now, and we need to push them. Push them and push them.
The truth is, Jason, that even in the Constitution, in the Bill of Rights, even the Senate and the House cannot vote out your rights. Your right to go to work, to feed your children, your right to earn a living, your right to free speech. And now there looks like there's going to be a lawsuit about forcing masks because that is impeding your right to free speech. Like they did to that doctor that made him quit practicing medicine because he wouldn't put this mask on. He was in New York. That doctor, what's his name? Kaufman. And he said, I can't, I'm a psychologist. I can't wear a mask. He said, what am I going to hide my face when people look at me? They look at my face to see if I'm telling them the truth.
He develops trust.
But it's a very good point because it's allowing people to walk around the streets with their faces covered, their eyes covered. Crime is going up. These doctors in Bakersfield said that you're inhaling your own carbon dioxide and viruses and reducing your immune system by doing that. I do want to address one thing here, Jimmy and JoAnne, because we've got Sandra Martha T in the comments demanding that we must have free information. And Sandra Martha T, there's loads of free information everywhere. But you see, Jimmy and JoAnne, you guys must have food, right? And you must have a way to pay your bills. And you guys have been shut down by a system that does not want your information coming forward. So I don't know if this person, Sandra Martha T, is a legitimate person or a social engineer who's trying to shut down the business model that I've created that allows independent individuals like Jimmy and JoAnne to come together with independent individuals like myself on a platform that we're trying to get information out on, but if we put it out on YouTube, it's going to be shut down. So this false notion that Sandra Martha T is putting out there that, the information needs to be free, this is a delusional person who thinks that it's free on YouTube. She's given up her right to access information that is actually needed to allow a corporate overlord like YouTube to determine what can and cannot be shared. Now, we've already been told by the CEO of YouTube that any information shared on YouTube that goes against the statements of the World Health Organization will be shut down. So Sandra Martha T is invited to either leave, shut up, or go on to Patreon if she wants this information because she's working against the effort.
I want everybody on your YouTube channel to know that since 2011, JoAnne and I have tried unsuccessfully to put out videos that we recorded ourselves in Libya while we were there, trapped in Tripoli during 2011 invasion of Tripoli, in Libya by U.S., UN, and NATO. We were ultimately captured by Al-Qaeda, taken to their torture center where we would be killed and chopped up and burned. We're unique in that we are eyewitnesses and we're alive to tell about it. So our information is raw. It belongs to us. However, when we tried to put that information out to let everybody see the war crimes and atrocities that were being committed in our name by the U.S., UN, and NATO, we were blocked by YouTube and all the other resources. We were blocked, had JoAnne's YouTube channel shut down so many times. We were not able to get all those very important videos out until, Jason, you took us under your wing and helped us establish this Patreon. And we have put out some very, very important videos that absolutely are newsworthy, at least.
Yeah, but the thing about Patreon is you can get it at $2 a month. If you want to watch all our videos, it's $2 a month or more, whatever you want to donate or pay. But in the end, if you think Fox News is free,
right?
If you think CBS is free, none of those are free.
Yeah,
none of those are free. So what's the complaint?
Yeah, So I don't know. I mean, if Sandra Martha T, I apologize to people who cannot afford to sponsor what we're doing. Certainly no donations because we aren't a charity. This is a new model of delivering news. I've evaluated, and in my opinion, all of these organizations, Fox News, the New York Times, they are all owned by large corporations, sponsored by corporate advertisers, and therefore their interests are in preserving the needs of their advertisers and their corporate controllers. By creating a system where we have hundreds or hopefully thousands of micro sponsors for as little as $2 a month, people can make sure that this information remains free of the control of the overlords. So I apologize to Martha T, and I'm sympathetic to people who can't afford $2 a month, but I wonder how she pays for the electricity she's using her computer with, if she's smoked one cigarette this month, drank one beer, one soda, because these are all unnecessary things. And I don't have an issue with Martha T, except that she's stuck her nose in here and created a problem. So I hope she'll either keep her opinion to herself or go away or enjoy the hard work that we put out on YouTube. There are plenty of videos, thousands of videos that are given here for free. I'm offended by her comments, and I don't want to spend any more time talking about that, but I'm trying to create a situation where whistleblowers like Jimmy and JoAnne can bring this information forward and where I can maintain a platform to support them. I apologize for getting angry, but I am offended by people who think it's my obligation to work 16, 18 hours a day for the past 3 years to deliver this information to them. So we're happy to have that person leave. Why don't you leave, Sandra Martha T? I'd prefer for you to not watch. Bye. Anyway, on that note, we're going to transition over to our sponsor exclusive show for sponsors who appreciate the fact that information may be free, but bringing it to people, broadcasting it to people is not. It takes hard work by Jimmy and JoAnne. There's a lot of people trying to stop Jimmy and JoAnne from bringing this information forward. You guys have had a really rough time. You've sacrificed your health. You've sacrificed your own personal wealth. And it really is upsetting to have someone come in here and argue with us like that. So I hope that people who disagree with the business model will keep that to themselves, because this type of argumentation will not change the approach, and I'll leave it at that. Well,
we'll do an update on Libya too at our other one
yes.
too, Jason.
All right. Thanks everybody for watching. No thanks to the people who are disrupting. We'll be back in just 5 minutes. Thanks everybody.